family of people killed.
What did these kids do to you? You don't need a whole family murdered for a particular reason. I can't think of an example where a whole family would need to be...
for vindictive reasons.
Yeah.
Okay, so the second part of George Meyer's statement was this. He says that he met the man in Villisca on June 9th, so the same day as the crime. He takes a train there. He meets him there. And this guy says, all right, here's $2,000 for this crime. I'll give you the rest tomorrow. And here is his quote on his statement of committing the actual crime. I walked around a while and found an axe. I picked it up, thinking it would be a good thing in the killing. That night, I got into the house with a knife. I saw a man asleep in a downstairs bedroom. I hit him once with the axe. His wife moved a little, so I hit her. Then I walked upstairs and saw 4 children in bed. I hit them with the blade side of the axe and ran out of the house, dropping the axe downstairs.
So, semi-consistent, but with what actually happened, but not entirely.
There's actually quite a few inconsistencies in his original statement. So the first major inconsistency, and I think this was a big thing that later made people go, he didn't do this, was he only confessed to killing 6 people. He never talked about the girls downstairs. To me, another inconsistency is the idea that he drops this axe as he's running out of the house.
Yeah.
To me, this was not a fast, there's no running involved in this crime. It seems slow,
methodical.
Exactly. The axe was found downstairs, like he says. So he says he drops it downstairs, which is accurate. That's definitely a fact that would have been published in this crime. He says that when he went to meet the man the next day, that he never showed up, and he was so mad that he just left town.
Okay, you killed 8 people,
right?
And you didn't get your money.
Right.
And you're just gonna
the only reason you did it, allegedly.
Yeah. Like, I would get what's your name? You know,
at the very least.
Yeah, what's your name? How can I find you? How can I get a hold of you? Like, I'm not letting them get away.
He's discredited pretty quickly.
Okay.
I don't think people took him seriously as a suspect after his confession was out. He got so many details of this case wrong that even looking at the theory, I kind of go, yeah, I don't think he did it. For me, the bigger mystery is, why would you confess to a crime you didn't commit, and who sent this letter to the jail about him? To me, that's kind of this bigger mystery.
Yeah.
Because why would you confess to this horrific crime that you had nothing to do with?
So I guess one of the only questions that I have left is, whatever happened to George Myers? So
the only thing I could find was days later. So it seemed like this story was totally hot for like a moment. And then on March 30th, so 2 days later, he's sentenced to 14 and a half to 15 years in prison for this burglary that he commits. There's a note in there that he, around this time, attempted to jailbreak with 10 other inmates. And that's basically it. Only a note that he was never charged for the crime in Iowa. That's it.
And then gone.
Gone.
Wow.
For me, I mean, I don't buy it.
It doesn't hold up for you?
No, I don't think he had anything to do with it, but I don't understand. I don't understand the letter, and I do not understand why you would confess to this if you have nothing to do with it.
Yeah. All right. Well, so, I mean, those are all the questions that I have remaining about.
I mean, that's basically all there is about our friend George Myers, Leroy Robinson. So
well, there you have it.
There you have it.
If you've enjoyed listening to our banter and want to listen to our podcast
that's scripted and not interactive in any way, a lot different,
go to thinairpodcast.com and listen to some of our reports on unsolved missing persons cases.
And thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
We've loved doing this.
Sideways team.
This is Aaron, and with me is Justin.
How are you Thinking Sideways folks doing tonight?
Talking about the Villisca axe murders.
One of the suspects they were looking into was a man named Andrew Sawyer. Nothing to do with the character in the show Lost. How this comes about is there's a man named Thomas Dyer of Burlington, Iowa, and he's a foreman for the Burlington Railroad. Andy Sawyer is looking for a job. He's a transient, and he approaches Thomas, asks if there's any work to be had. They describe Sawyer as clean-shaven. He was wearing a brown suit. His shoes were dirty and his pants were wet. They said that Sawyer would purchase a newspaper about the axe murders and was very interested in the story. Dyer says that Sawyer slept in his clothes and kept to himself a lot. Now, maybe he slept in his clothes because he didn't have any other clothes. I don't know what they're getting at there. But the real creepy issue is they say that Sawyer slept with his axe. Do you sleep with your axe, Aaron?
I don't have an axe, Justin, so I don't know if I would or not. I would say I probably wouldn't.
Sawyer had a lot of information about the axe murders and would brag to Dyer and the other workmen about how he got away and precisely where he ran from. He describes the area where a man jumped over a manure box and said that's how he escaped, and pointed at footprints in the ground. He even took Dyer's son, who is named JR, over to the other side of the car to show him these footprints and an old tree. So we have a guy who is very interested in the murders, who sleeps with an axe, which is the murder weapon used, and seems to have some inside information about the details of how the murderer got away. That seems kind of suspect, right?
Right. Well, and as you said, he was looking for a job. It wasn't even just this that he was talking about this case, but they said that his eyes looked mad. They looked glassy. So he was not really fitting in well with the other guys that were working in this area. They were all nervous of him.
One night he jumps up and says, "I'll cut your goddamn heads off." I don't know if he was actually saying it to anybody or just saying it in general, but that's crazy town.
I think you have to take him at his word. You have to really respect what he's saying and take heed, because they said when they first tried to put him to work, they could tell that he had lied about his experience. You know, they asked him if he was good with steam engines, and he said, oh yeah. But he had no idea what he was doing. So then they had him sharpening piles. They were driving these poles into the river. They said with his axe, he could sharpen things up pretty quick. So he was obviously good with his axe. You know, the one he slept with.
The only reason why I guess I don't feel he's a legit suspect is the officials say that he was arrested for vagrancy in another part of town the night of the murders. So if that's true, obviously he has a pretty good alibi. I guess we're all into true crime. We're all interested in activities that go around us. So him buying the newspaper and reading about the murders maybe shouldn't be that suspect. Also, maybe he read something in the newspaper that talked about the escape route that the murderer took. I don't know.
Well, his co-workers contacted the sheriff, and the sheriff spoke with him, but they didn't arrest Sawyer. They let him go. And it seemed as though at least his co-workers thought he could have committed these murders, because they thought he was crazy and he loved his axe too much. But he ended up quitting and going back home to his family, of all things. So he did have a family. It wasn't like he was just off on his own. He was just looking for work.
I guess if they vetted him properly, then I'm going to disregard him as a suspect. But if that's only going off of the arrest for vagrancy.
Yeah, they did vet his stories. The sheriff supposedly went through with him his timeline, where he was, what he had been up to, as best they could. In the end, there will always be people who look at Andy Sawyer and say, oh, he's a very good suspect. But at least as far as law enforcement at the time was concerned, he doesn't really check out to be a good suspect. But if you're looking for someone just crazy enough to commit such a horrible series of murders in a home, like as to what happened in this case, yeah, and he does seem crazy. But these are the accounts of his co-workers, And just like any other case, we don't know what he was going through at the time. And so since we don't have interviews with people who knew him for years and years, we don't get a good, complete picture of Andrew Sawyer. We just have, what was he like around the time of the murders? Well, he was crazy and he slept with his axe.
Happy anniversary, Thinking Sideways.
Did you guys like that?
Okay, well, that was pretty awesome. First off,
very fun. Thank you.
That was totally cool. No, some great theorizing there. And first off, I think we had to thank the Captain and Nick from True Crime Garage, Robin Werder from The Trail Went Cold, and gosh, who else? Allie and Charlie from Insight.
Nina from Already Gone.
Nina, thanks, Nina. And of course,
Michael from Unresolved.
Yeah.
Jordan and Daniel from Thin Air, and our besties, Aaron and Justin from Gen Life.
Yeah, you guys.
Once again, we've got him interning.
Yeah,
you guys.
Perfect.
Yeah, no, great job. Way to point the finger of guilt. All of you, and we like that now.
Yeah.
And so, well, you guys have any favorites yourselves among the suspects?
No. I don't know. It's hard because, I mean, really, honestly, I suspect, but none of them are great.
Well, and there appears to be a lot of axe murdering going on in that neck of the country at that time. So it's really difficult. You know, you think about like Henry Lee Moore, and there's killings, but then there's Andy Sawyer who likes to sleep with his axe. So I mean, Andy's kind of my favorite just because the weirdo factor.
I don't know. I don't think he was necessarily.
No, it's the weirdo
doing
factor.
This sort of thing. I mean, I think he just had some issues going on. You know.
Well, actually, if I lived in a time when there were axe murderers running around all over the place, I'd probably sleep with my axe too, if not a revolver or something.
Yeah.
I can't really blame Andy for that. I don't know. The only one of these people that actually went to trial was, of course, the Reverend Kelly, who actually confessed, although his confession was just dubious.
Very dubious.
I had heard that he actually confessed to the sinking of the Lusitania. No, seriously. I mean, seriously. I think this guy had some issues.
To everything.
Yeah.
I think he had some issues.
I agree.
Well, he was also a big perv, so.
Yeah. I wanted to throw in one more suspect, by the way.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, one more suspect. My murder suspect is Josiah Moore, who, by the way, was never actually positively identified. I mean, I read the testimony from the doctor, and they were all essentially, they went into the bedroom, they pulled back the covers, and then they saw him all with his face obliterated and everything, and the doctor said, yep, that's Joe. And that's it. I don't think they ever actually, obviously demo records are out, facial recognition is right out.
Also 1912, so it's not as though like fingerprinting was in infancy.
No, his fingerprints would not have been on file anywhere. How did they identify the body?
But if that's the doctor may have seen Joe with his shirt off, and I don't know, maybe Joe had a set of scars or birthmarks or something like that. You know, very defining features.
My understanding from the testimony was that it was just assumed right off the bat by everybody that it was Josiah and Sarah in the bed dead.
Well, here's a question.
Yeah.
If it was Josiah, why would he commit this series of murders when the neighbor girls were over? Kill them too. If he wanted to kill his entire family,
he snapped. That Children's Day service just pushed him over the edge.
Right over the edge.
Exactly. I'm not saying this theory has no holes in it, but I mean it does.
It like Lusitania.
I was going to say it's kind of like Swiss cheese.
Yeah, it does. But that would explain one thing, which is why the killer went to extra lengths to obliterate his face more than anybody else's.
True.
Of course, it could be the killer especially hated him.
I think this up.
Or it could be the killer had. It could be. And here's another possibility, and one that I actually think is the strongest one, is that I think it was a random serial killer. And it may have been this guy might have had issues with his own dad, and so dad and his family came in for a little extra abuse. But if you look at some of the other axe murderers, and I'm not the first person to actually try to tie this in with a lot of other random axe murders that took place across the Midwest.
But there was a lot of murdering going on.
There were a lot of them, and what they all had in common was their proximity to railroad tracks. Actually, riding the rails was a common way to get around back in those days. And so, without getting into incredible detail about all these other murders, let's just say that I think that there might just be a tie-in there, and it's entirely possible this was just a random thing. This guy might have gotten off the train, walked up the street towards their house, trying doorknobs until he found a house that was unlocked. and that didn't have a dog and just walked in and did his thing and then just walked back down to the train tracks and left.
I mean, maybe. My question then would be why the master bedroom seemed to have been the furthest away from the door. So why go all the way in and murder your way all the way out on the chance that somebody might wake up and notify the rest of the house? Why wouldn't you start from the beginning and work your way back?
I see. I think that if it were me, what I would do first is I would identify probably the parents and kill them first, because those are the people, especially the dad, who are most likely to have a gun.
Or be able to overpower you.
Or be able to overpower you or whatever, yeah. So that's why I would definitely kill mom and dad first.
Fair enough.
I would, yeah. Of course, I'm not a killer, I don't know. But,
yeah.
So,
that we know of.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. Yeah. And, you guys, that's why you guys should be glad we're doing commercials, because that means I have a financial incentive not to kill you.
True.
Yeah. So keep those commercials coming, kids. Otherwise, enough of those dark theories. But that's my theory essentially, is that it probably was a random dude. You guys? No? Okay. Well, let's wrap this one up then.
All right.
First of all, happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
You guys too. Thanks for doing something special.
Hell yeah. Just for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, you probably have your own theories out there. So you can reach us via email at thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. We also have a website, which is thinkingsidewayspodcast.com, where you can find our episodes and download them. There are also links to merch at Redbubble and Zazzle. You can get shirts and mugs and all kinds of cool stuff. And where else? We're on iTunes. Find us on iTunes if you haven't already, and you probably have. But if you are so inclined, give us a rating and a review, preferably good ones. And you can stream us from all kinds of places, including Stitcher is a big one, and a lot of others. And where else? Social media, Facebook. We're on Facebook, where you can join the group and like the page. That's the order it works in.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, and of course we're on Reddit, where we are Thinking Sideways, and we are on Twitter, where we are Thinking Sideways. What am I forgetting, guys? Can't think of anything.
That's it.
I think that's all of
it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow, you did that all from memory. Good job.
I know. I'm getting better. It's only taken 4 years. But that's it. And again, we want to hear from you guys. If you live in Villisca or nearby, we'd love to hear from you, especially who your favorite theories are. My understanding is that the town kind of split between Methodists and Presbyterians after this whole thing happened, because the Moors were Presbyterians, and the chief accusee was Frank Jones, who was a Methodist, and so there was a big controversy for years in this town. But other than that, okay. So if you're either a Methodist or a Presbyterian from Villisca, we'd like to hear from your side of the story. All right, until next, guys.
Bye, guys.
Thinking Sideways is not brought to you by the new TV reality show, Who Gets to Be Sterilized? Instead, it's brought to you by your local dog and cat shelter. And, not to be exclusive, you're also Komodo dragons and other stuff. So in every town, there's lots of them out there. Homeless doggies, kitties, and Komodo dragons, and they need a place to live. And that could be your place. Also, if you can't, for some reason, take in a cute little puppy or a cute little kitten, well, you can always donate your time, donate your money. But all those little critters need your help, so get down there now. Thinking Sideways.
Hey there, and welcome to the podcast. I am Steve, as always, joined by
Devin
and Joe.
And this week, as always, on Thinking Sideways, we've got a mystery for you.
Oh, it's a doozy.
It's a historical doozy.
A lot of dead bodies.
No, actually, no.
Well, no, there were.
Yeah.
Okay.
You just don't see them, but
The mystery isn't the dead bodies, but there are a lot of dead bodies.
They're strongly implied.
Well, if we're going to say that, then yes, there's dead bodies everywhere all the time around you.
Well, there's that too. But,
creep factor.
Hey, high five for totally steamrolling him already.
Good job, David.
Okie dokie. Well, let's go ahead and now that you two are done with that, get into our story.
Okay.
Because this week we're going to be talking about vitrified forts, which is a historical mystery. And the mystery is kind of twofold because first off, we need to figure out how the forts were made, and then the mystery, of course, is why were they made. So let's start